The wind across the Castilian plains does not simply blow, it bites. It is a dry, ancient cold that seeps through the heaviest velvet and settles deep within the marrow of the bone. It is the dead of night in the year 1506, and the only light comes from the flickering, sputtering torches of a funeral procession that refuses to end. Can you smell it? Underneath the heavy, suffocating clouds of frankincense swinging from the censers of exhausted monks, there is another scent. It is sweet, cloying, and horrifyingly organic. It is the smell of a king turning to dust. But the woman walking beside the hearse does not recoil. She does not cover her nose with a perfumed handkerchief, like the ladies in waiting who tremble a few paces behind her. She breathes it in. To her, this putrid air is the only oxygen left in the world. She signals for the procession to stop. Again, the horses, draped in black ceremonial cloth, stomp nervously on the hard-packed dirt. The monks cease their chanting, their voices dying out into the whistling wind. Everyone watches her. They watch with a mixture of pity, terror, and morbid fascination. She approaches the coffin. It is magnificent, carved from the finest wood. But she treats it like a cradle, with hands that are trembling, not from the cold, but from a feverish, consuming need. She commands the lid to be opened. The courtiers look away. They cannot bear to see it again. But she looks. Inside lies Philip. Philip the handsome, the man who stole her heart, broke it, and then died, leaving her holding the jagged pieces. His face is graying, the skin pulling tight against the skull, the lips that once whispered cruel lies now sealed forever. She reaches out. She caresses the cold, waxy forehead. She leans in, whispering secrets to ears that have long since stopped hearing. She arranges his shroud with the fussiness of a mother tucking in a child, or a lover preparing for bed. Because for Juana, Queen of Castile, this is not a funeral. This is a marriage bed on wheels. She scans the dark horizon, her eyes wild and bloodshot. She is looking for shadows. She is looking for women. Even now, with his heart stopped and his body rotting, she is consumed by a jealousy so potent it defies the laws of death. She has forbidden any woman from coming near the wagon. Nuns are turned away. Ladies are banished to the rear. She guards this corpse with the ferocity of a wolf guarding a bone. She orders the camp to be set. She will sleep here on the freezing ground, beside the open coffin. She will hold his hand through the night, waiting for a squeeze that will never come. This is the image that history has burned into our collective memory, the Mad Queen, the woman who lost her mind for love, the necrophilic pilgrim wandering the wastelands of Spain with her dead husband. It is a grotesque tableau. It is a horror story. But what if I told you that this horror story was actually a heist? What if the madness in her eyes was not insanity, but the sheer, blinding panic of a woman who realizes the walls are closing in? What if this macabre parade was not the act of a lunatic, but the final, desperate scream of a monarch being erased from existence by the very men who swore to protect her? We look at the coffin and we see a tragedy of romance. But we are looking at the wrong thing. We should be looking at the shadows behind the torchlight. We should be looking at the ink drying on the documents in a palace far away, documents that declare her unfit, documents that steal a kingdom, documents signed by a father and a son. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, not just to help the channel, but because every interaction tells YouTube that stories like this deserve to be told. Because this is not just a story about a woman who loved too much. This is the autopsy of a soul. We're about to descend into a darkness that makes the midnight plains of Castile look bright. We are going to peel back 500 years of propaganda, layer by sticky layer. We need to understand how a brilliant, educated, and vibrant young princess was systematically dismantled piece by piece until the only thing left was the caricature we see standing over that coffin. To understand the woman caressing the corpse, we have to understand the silence that surrounded her. Imagine being the most powerful woman in the world, the heir to the Catholic monarchs, Isabella and Ferdinand. You own half the known world, and yet you are a prisoner in your own skin. We are going to walk the cold stone corridors of the Tordesillas Palace, a place where time stopped for 46 years. We will hear the turning of the key in the lock, a sound that echoes louder than any cannon fire. We will feel the dampness of a room without windows, where a queen was left to rot while her family divided her empire like vultures picking at a carcass. Was she truly mad? Or was she the victim of the most successful gaslighting campaign in human history? The line between passion and pathology is thin, razor-sharp, and often drawn by the winners. And in Juana's case, the winners were the men who wanted her crown. Tonight, we do not just recount history, we are putting history on trial. We are going to step into the mind of Juana. We will feel the obsession that boiled in her blood. We will feel the betrayal that froze her heart. And we will ask the question that has haunted Spain for centuries. Was it love that drove her to the edge of the abyss? Or was she pushed? The coffin is open. The wind is howling. And the truth is buried much deeper than the body. To understand the decay, we must first understand the bloom. We must scrub the image of the grey, haggard widow from our minds and replace it with something brighter, something fragile. Let us rewind the clock. Let us pull back from the freezing winds of the Castilian plains and step into the golden warmth of the Alhambra in Granada. It is the late 15th century, and the air here is heavy with the scent of jasmine and orange blossoms, a sweetness so thick it sticks to the back of the throat. Here, walking through the intricate archways where the shadows play hide and seek with the light, is a girl. She is 16 years old. She is Juana. She is not the mad, not yet. She is simply the infanta, the third child, the one who was never meant to rule, and therefore the one who was allowed to simply be. Look at her, truly look at her. She does not have the hard, predatory gaze of her father, Ferdinand. She has the soft, contemplative eyes of a creature that prefers the quiet corners of the library to the noisy spectacle of the tournament grounds. Her hair is a striking reddish gold, a strawberry blonde cascade that catches the Andalusian sun, setting her apart from the dark-haired heads of the court. It is the hair of a distinct soul, a flag of difference waving in a sea of conformity. She sits by a marble fountain, the water trickling with a hypnotic rhythmic splashing. In her lap rests a heavy book bound in leather that smells of earth and glue. She is not merely staring at the pages, she is devouring them. Her fingers, stained with ink, trace the Latin verses of the great thinkers. She whispers the words to herself, testing their weight on her tongue. She is brilliant. This is the tragedy we often forget. Juana was likely the most intelligent of all her siblings. While others practiced the lute or the sword, she was debating theology and philosophy. She spoke fluent Latin, while other princesses were still stumbling over their prayers. She possessed a mind like a diamond, sharp, clear, and capable of cutting. But in the court of the Catholic monarchs, a sharp mind in a woman is not a gift, it is a threat. Enter the shadow that looms over her entire existence, her mother, Queen Isabella, the Iron Queen. Imagine the sound of Isabella's footsteps approaching down the stone corridor. It is a heavy, rhythmic thudding, authoritative, terrifying. The rustle of stiff brocade against the floor, the clinking of the heavy rosary beads that hang from her waist like a weapon. When Isabella enters the room, the temperature drops. The air becomes thin. Isabella loves her daughter, yes, but she loves her duty to God more. For Juana, Childhood is not a time of play. It is a time of rigorous, suffocating discipline. The atmosphere is one of perpetual penance. The smell of beeswax candles burning in a chapel is the scent of her youth. The cold stone against her knees during hours of mandatory prayer is the texture of her upbringing. Juana feels the weight of her mother's gaze, a gaze that demands perfection, that demands absolute submission to the church. But Juana is different. There are whispers in the palace corridors, hushed conversations between the duennas. They say the Infanta asks too many questions. They say she does not weep with enough fervor during the Passion. They say her eyes remain dry when they should be wet, and her mind wanders when it should be bowed. We see a young woman who is not mad, but simply skeptical, a quiet rebel in a house of zealots. She feels the oppressive weight of the crucifix on the wall, watching her, judging her. She feels the suffocating corset of expectation tightening around her ribs, day by day, breath by breath. She retreats inward. She builds a castle inside her own mind, a fortress where she can be free. In the silence of her chambers, she nurtures a desperate, starving need for something she has never tasted: intimacy. Not the cold, transactional alliances of kings and queens, but real, burning connection. She is a vessel of immense passion, corked and sealed tight, left to ferment in the dark. She watches her older siblings leave, one by one, sold off to foreign courts like high-priced cattle. She knows her turn is coming. She hears the scribbling of quills in the next room, the scratching sound of her father signing away her future on a piece of parchment. She stands on the balcony, looking out over the rugged Spanish landscape. The wind whips her golden hair across her face. She grips the stone railing until her knuckles turn white. She is terrified. But beneath the terror, there is a vibrating hope. A hope that somewhere beyond the mountains, beyond the sea, there is a life where she does not have to be a statue. A life where she can be flesh and blood. She does not know that the ships are already being prepared in the harbor of Laredo. She does not know that the wooden hulls are being stocked with salted meat and wine for a journey to Flanders. She does not know that she is about to be shipped into the arms of a man who will ignite that dormant passion and burn her world to ash. She is innocent. She is whole. She is waiting. And as the sun sets over Granada, casting long blood-red shadows across the palace floor, we feel a profound sadness, because we know what is coming. We know that this brilliant, quiet girl is walking toward a cliff edge, and there is no one, not her father, not her mother, not God himself, who is going to catch her. The journey to the precipice begins with water. Endless, churning, grey water. Juana does not arrive in Flanders as a conqueror. She arrives as a survivor. The fleet that carried her from the dry heat of Spain to the damp lowlands of the north was battered by a storm so vicious it swallowed ships whole. For days, the only sounds she knew were the screaming of the wind in the rigging, the cracking of timber, and the retching of sailors who had lost hope. She huddled in the dark of her cabin, damp to the bone, clutching a crucifix that felt slippery in her sweating palms. She steps onto the dock in the Low Countries, shivering. The air here is different. It is thick with moisture, heavy with the smell of wet wool, beer and river mud. It lacks the austere clarity of Castile. It is a world of fog and shadows. But then the fog parts, and she sees him, Philip, the Duke of Burgundy, the man the world calls the Handsome. History is often kind to kings, painting over their flaws. But in Philip's case, the moniker was not flattery. It was a statement of fact. He stands there, framed by the grey sky, a creature of vibrant colour. He wears velvets dyed in deep crimsons and lush greens, fur-lined cloaks that ripple in the breeze. His hair is fair, his jaw strong, his smile practiced and dazzling. He looks like a character stepped out of a romance novel, or perhaps a predator who knows exactly how beautiful its plumage is. Juana, The girl raised in the shadow of the convent, the girl of silence and books, stops breathing. It is not a polite introduction. It is a collision. In the rigid etiquette of royal marriages, there is supposed to be a dance. A slow, diplomatic waltz of bows, curtsies, and formal dinners. The consummation is a duty, a grim act performed for the sake of treaties and bloodlines, often weeks after the first meeting. But Juana and Philip do not dance. They ignite. The courtiers watch, stunned, as the electricity between the two strangers crackles in the air. Philip looks at this Spanish princess, this intense red-haired girl with the serious eyes, and he sees a challenge. He sees a fire waiting to be stoked. And Juana? She looks at him and sees the sun. After a lifetime of cold stone and whispering nuns, she feels a sudden violent thaw. They cannot wait. The historical record is explicit, almost blushing in its detail. They find a priest. They demand a blessing. It is hasty, breathless, whispered in a frenzy. And then they command the court to leave. They do not wait for the feast. They do not wait for the bedding ceremony. They retreat to their chambers, and the heavy oak door slams shut with a finality that echoes through the corridors of history. Behind that door, something fundamental breaks inside Juana. The strict discipline of her mother, the pious admonitions of the church, the fear of sin, it all dissolves in the heat of skin against skin. For the first time in her life, she is not an infanta, not a pawn, not a daughter. She is a woman discovering the terrifying power of her own body. She drinks him in, the scent of his foreign cologne, musk and ambergris, the weight of his body, the sound of his breath in the dark. She clings to him with a ferocity that frightens even herself. But this is where the poison enters the bloodstream. For Philip, this passion is a sport. He is a man of the Burgundian court, a place of excess, of wine, of mistresses who drift through the palace like ornamental ghosts. To him, pleasure is as common as bread. He devours Juana, yes, but he is already looking over her shoulder, wondering what other delights the world holds. For Juana, this is not sport, it is religion. She emerges from that room changed. The quiet girl is gone. In her place is a woman possessed. She falls into a love so deep, so consuming, that it borders on idolatry. She worships him. She watches him across the banquet hall, her eyes tracking his every movement. When he smiles at her, she soars. When he looks away, she plummets. She has handed him the keys to her sanity. And Philip? He begins to feel the weight of it. The honeymoon phase in the damp castles of Flanders does not last. The novelty of the intense Spanish princess wears off. Philip returns to his old habits. He likes the hunt. He likes the chase. He begins to wander. Juana smells the change before she sees it. She smells the strange perfumes on his doublets. She notices the hushed giggles of the ladies-in-waiting when she enters a room. She sees the way his eyes linger on the neckline of a servant girl. That same predatory spark she once thought was reserved only for her. The jealousy starts as a cold knot in her stomach. It is not the petty envy of a neglected wife. It is the existential panic of an addict being denied their drug. She begins to stalk the corridors at night. Imagine her, barefoot on the freezing tiles, pressing her ear to the heavy wooden doors, listening. Is that his voice? Is that a woman's laughter? Her imagination fills in the silence with grotesque, vivid scenes. She confronts him, she screams, she weeps, she tears at her own hair, desperate to make him see her, to make him look at her with that fire again. But Philip does not like scenes. He does not like complications. He looks at her raw, bleeding emotion with a cool, detached disdain. He calls her hysterical. He locks his door. And every time the lock clicks, Juana fractures a little more. She's trapped in a foreign land, surrounded by courtiers who speak a language she barely understands, who mock her intensity, who are loyal only to him. She has no allies. She has only this burning, cancerous love that is slowly eating her alive from the inside out. She realizes with a dawning horror that the man she worships is a hollow idol. But she cannot stop. She cannot turn it off. The more he pulls away, the harder she grips. Her nails dig into the velvet of his sleeve, desperate to anchor him, desperate to keep the sun from setting. This is not madness, not yet. This is the agony of a heart that has been opened too wide, exposed to the elements, and left to freeze in the drafty halls of a palace that has become a prison. The trap is set, and she has walked right into it, guided by the blinding light of her own desire. The sky over Castile turns the color of a bruised plum. The clouds hang low and heavy, swollen with a rain that refuses to fall, trapping the heat and the dust against the earth. It is a suffocating weather, the kind that makes dogs howl in the night and makes the skin prickle with an unseen static. But the true storm is not brewing in the clouds. It is brewing in the inkwells of men who smile with their teeth. Destiny plays a cruel trick on Juana. Fate, with a twisted sense of humor, begins to prune the family tree. Her brother dies, her older sister dies, her nephew dies. One by one, the heirs to the Spanish throne are extinguished, like candles blown out by a sudden draught. And suddenly, the unwanted third child, the girl sent away to the foggy north, is no longer just a wife. She is the Queen of Castile. She is the owner of the crown. And this is when the wolves stop circling and begin to close in. Philip looks at his wife differently now. He no longer sees the passionate, intense woman who bores him with her devotion. He sees a golden key. He sees a map to a kingdom that stretches from the Mediterranean to the New World. He sits in his study in Brussels, surrounded by his Flemish advisors, men with pale faces and sharp, predatory noses. The fire in the hearth has burned down to embers, casting long, dancing shadows against the tapestries. The air smells of stale wine and melting sealing wax. Listen to the sound of the room. It is quiet, save for the scratching of a quill against parchment. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It is a sound more lethal than the sharpening of a sword. Philip is writing letters. He is writing to his father-in-law Ferdinand in Spain. He is writing to the nobles of Castile. He is weaving a narrative, thread by black thread. He does not write about her intelligence. He does not write about her grief for her dead siblings. He writes of her instability. He takes her passion and calls it hysteria. He takes her jealousy and calls it delusion. He takes her anger, the righteous anger of a wife betrayed, and calls it madness. He is constructing a cage, not of iron bars but of words. And miles away in the sun-baked court of Spain, another shadow lengthens. Ferdinand of Aragon, the father. Ferdinand is an old lion now, his mane thinning, his eyes hard as flint. He has spent a lifetime fighting for power, and he has no intention of handing his wife's kingdom over to his daughter, or worse, to her foreign husband. He reads Philip's letters by the light of a tallow candle. He reads the accusations of madness, and he does not defend his daughter. He does not weep for the slander against his own blood. He nods. He sees an opportunity. If Juana is mad, she cannot rule. If she cannot rule, someone must rule for her. The betrayal is total. The two men who should be her shield, the husband she worships and the father she reveres, begin a silent, monstrous waltz. They are rivals, yes, but they are united by a single, terrifying goal: to erase her. Back in the palace, the atmosphere shifts. Juana feels it. The servants stop meeting her eyes. They scurry away like cockroaches when she enters a room. She hears whispers that stop abruptly when she turns a corner. She finds doors locked that used to be open. She finds her letters intercepted, the seals broken. She is the queen, yet she has to beg for a candle to light her room at night. The isolation is physical and absolute. The damp walls of the palace seem to lean in, pressing against her chest. She can smell the conspiracy. It smells like rot masked by heavy perfume. She tries to assert herself. She demands to see the council. She demands to see the treasury reports. But Philip blocks her. He stands in the doorway, his broad shoulders barring her path, a look of mock pity on his handsome face. "Rest, my love," he says, but his voice is cold. "You are not well. You are agitated. The doctors say you must rest." He brings in physicians, men on his payroll who poke and prod her, who bleed her with leeches until she is dizzy and faint. They shake their heads gravely. They speak in Latin, excluding her from the diagnosis of her own mind. The paranoia takes root. How could it not? When everyone tells you that the sky is green and you see it is blue, you begin to wonder if your eyes are lying. Juana paces her chambers. The hem of her dress drags across the floorboards, collecting dust. She checks the food they bring her, looking for the glint of powder, the smell of bitter almonds. She stops eating. Her cheekbones sharpen. Her eyes grow huge and dark, swimming in a face that is becoming a skull. She screams at Philip. She accuses him of trying to steal her crown. She accuses him of trying to kill her, and Philip just smiles. He turns to the courtiers watching from the shadows, spreads his hands and sighs. "You see," his gesture says, "you see how she is?" Every act of resistance is used as proof of her insanity. Every tear is evidence of her weakness. Every demand for respect is twisted into a symptom of her disease. Outside, the wind howls against the stone towers, a lonely, mournful sound. But inside, the silence is worse. It is the silence of a tomb being sealed from the outside, brick by brick. The shadows have swallowed the room, the conspiracy is complete, the trap is sprung, and Juana is alone in the dark. Then the universe shatters. It happens not with a bang, but with a sudden, sickening silence. Philip dies. It is swift. It is suspicious. He drinks a glass of cold water after a game of pelota on a sweltering September day, and within hours the fever takes him. The man who seemed immortal, the man of vibrancy and lust, is reduced to a sweating, gasping wreck, and then he is gone. For Juana, time stops. The axis of her world snaps. We are back on the plains of Castile now. The image from the beginning returns, but now we see it with new eyes. We see the exhaustion. We see the terror. She is pregnant, heavily pregnant with their last child. Her body is swollen, her back aches with a dull, throbbing pain, but she does not stop. She cannot stop. The coffin is her only possession now. It is the only thing they haven't taken from her. Her father, Ferdinand, is returning from Italy. The Regency Council is squabbling. The vultures are circling lower than ever. She orders the coffin opened. She needs to see him. She needs to make sure he is still there, that they haven't replaced him with stones or sand. She gazes at the decay, at the graying flesh, and she does not see a corpse. She sees the only man who ever touched her soul, even if his hands were cruel. But the true nightmare is not the body in the box. The true nightmare is waiting for her at Tordesillas. Imagine a sunrise that brings no light. The sky is the color of a healing bruise, purple, yellow, gray. The procession arrives at the palace of Tordesillas. It is a fortress disguised as a home. The walls are high. The river Duero flows below, dark and fast, a natural moat that whispers of drowning. Her father is there to meet her, Ferdinand. He does not embrace her. He does not weep with her. He looks at her with eyes that are dry and calculating. He takes the reins of her horse. "It is for your own good," he says. Those words, the most dangerous sentence in the human language. They lead her inside. The heavy iron gates groan as they swing shut. Clang. The sound vibrates in her teeth. It is the sound of a vault locking. She is led to her chambers. Not the royal apartments with the balconies overlooking the river. No, she is led deeper into a wing of the palace that smells of damp stone and old dust. The windows are high and narrow, mere slits that allow only a thin beam of grey light to filter through. The door closes, the key turns, and it never opens again. 46 years. Let that sink in. 46 years. Imagine the seasons changing through that slit in the wall. The blistering heat of the Castilian summer that turns the room into an oven. The biting frost of winter that covers the stone floor in a layer of ice. She has no fire. She has no warm furs. She huddles in the corner, wrapping her thinning arms around herself, shivering so violently her teeth chatter like dice in a cup. The sensory deprivation is absolute. No music, no conversation, no news of the world she owns. She is the queen of all Spain, the queen of the Indies, the mistress of the New World, and she is rotting in a room that smells of unwashed bodies and despair. Her only company is her youngest daughter, Catalina, a child born in grief, raised in a prison. Imagine a little girl growing up in the shadows, her playground a stone floor, her only playmate a mother who stares for hours at the wall, whispering to ghosts. The jailers are cruel. They are men appointed by her father, and later by her own son, Charles. They are ordered to keep her calm. When she refuses to eat, they force her. The sensation of rough hands prying open her jaw, the metal spoon scraping against her teeth, the choking swallow of gruel that tastes of ash. When she refuses to attend Mass, her one act of rebellion against the religion that she feels has abandoned her, they punish her. There are reports, dark and fragmented, of the strap, with the sound of leather striking flesh in the dark. The stifled cries of a queen being beaten like a disobedient dog. She stops bathing. Why wash a body that no one will ever see? Why groom hair that no one will ever stroke? She lets the filth accumulate, a layer of protective armor against the world. Her skin becomes grey and scaly. Her nails grow long and curled. She sits on the floor, rocking back and forth. Creak, creak, creak. The madness, if it wasn't there before, comes now. It is invited in. It is the only guest allowed. She begins to hear voices in the wind that whistles through the window slit. Is it Philip? Is he calling her from the grave? Is it her mother scolding her? Sometimes she screams, a primal raw sound that echoes through the palace of Tordesillas. The courtiers in the other wings, living their lives of luxury, pause for a moment. They hold their wine glasses still. They look at each other with uneasy eyes. The mad queen, they whisper. She is howling again. But is it madness, or is it the sound of a soul being digested? Her son, Charles V, the Emperor of the world, comes to visit. He is a stranger to her, a man with a jutting jaw and cold eyes. He enters her cell. He recoils at the smell. He looks at this creature in rags, cowering in the shadows. Does he feel pity? Does he feel shame? He nods to the jailer. Make sure she is comfortable. He leaves. He takes the crown. He takes the gold from the Americas. He takes the glory, and he leaves his mother in the dark. The years blur, decades dissolve. Her hair turns white, then thin, then gone. Her eyes, once so full of fire, become milky and vacant. The world outside changes. Empires rise and fall. Wars are fought. New lands are discovered. But in the room at Tordesillas, it is always the same day. It is always the day the door locked. She is a ghost, haunting her own life, a living relic, a warning to any woman who dares to feel too much, who dares to love too hard, who dares to stand in the way of men who want power. The torture is not the rack or the screw. The torture is time, the slow, dripping erosion of a human being until there is nothing left but a name and a lie. But even the thickest walls have cracks, and sometimes through the mortar of history, the truth bleeds through. For centuries, the world accepted the verdict. Juana was mad. It was a tragedy, yes, but a necessary one. A broken mind cannot hold a scepter. But let us look closer at the dust settling in the archives. Let us blow away the cobwebs from the letters that were never meant to be read. In the year 1520, the gates of Tordesillas were forced open, not by a jailer but by rebels, the comuneros, men who had tired of her son Charles and his foreign advisors plundering Castile. They stormed the palace, torches held high, expecting to find a raving lunatic, a beast in human shape. Instead, they found a queen. The chroniclers of the revolt describe the scene with a sense of awe that still vibrates on the page. They found Juana seated, frail and dirty, yes, but her eyes were clear. When they spoke to her of the state of the kingdom, of the taxes, of the corruption, she did not scream about dead husbands. She listened. She asked questions, sharp, incisive political questions. She spoke with the eloquence of a diplomat. She commanded the room with the gravity of her mother, Isabella. For a few brief, terrifying months, the narrative collapsed. The mad queen was presiding over the courts. She was lucid. She was sane. And this brings us to the most chilling realization of all. The mystery is not whether she was mad. The mystery is, was she ever mad at all? We have the letters from her jailer, the Marquis of Denaya. He writes to her son Charles in a code of cruelty. He admits to keeping her in the dark. He admits to lying to her. He writes, "It is necessary that your mother be kept in this state, for if she were to recover, your highness would lose the crown." Read that again. Her madness was not a medical diagnosis, it was a political necessity. If Juana is sane, then her father Ferdinand was a usurper. If Juana is sane, then her son Charles, the Holy Roman Emperor, was a thief. They needed her to be crazy. They needed her to be the loca. Because if she wasn't, she was the most powerful woman on earth, and they were merely her subjects. Imagine the psychological torture of that realization. Sitting in the dark, knowing you are whole, knowing you are capable, while the men you loved, the father who raised you, the husband who seduced you, the son you birthed, gaslight the entire world into believing you are broken. Is it paranoia if they really are out to get you? Is it hysteria if you are screaming the truth and no one listens? Perhaps her refusal to bury Philip wasn't madness. Perhaps it was the only leverage she had. As long as the body was above ground, the funeral wasn't over. As long as the funeral wasn't over, she was still the grieving widow, not the replaced monarch. Perhaps it was a stall for time, a desperate chess move by a woman playing against grandmasters. But the game was rigged. Juana dies on Good Friday, 1555. She is 75 years old. She has spent nearly half a century in a room without a view. When the end comes, the struggle finally leaves her face. The tension that held her body rigid for decades dissolves. She is washed, she is dressed in velvet, and finally she is carried out of Tordesillas. She is taken to Granada, to the royal chapel, and there, in the quiet cool of the crypt, she is laid to rest. And here is the final brutal irony. She is buried next to him, Philip, the handsome, the man who broke her heart, the man who started the lie. They lie side by side in marble tombs, carved to look like they are sleeping. Her hands are clasped in prayer. His hands are resting on his sword. Tourists walk past them every day. They look at the effigies. They listen to the guides who recite the old script. Here lies Juana, the mad, who lost her mind for love. They see a romance. But if you stand there long enough, in the silence of the crypt, you might feel something else. You might feel the weight of the stone. You might feel the chill of a story that has been frozen in ice. A story of a woman who was too inconveniently powerful to be allowed to exist. We call her Juana la Loca. It is a label that dismisses her. It turns her suffering into a folklore, a campfire story to scare young girls. Don't love too hard, the story says, or you'll end up like her. But Juana was not a victim of love. She was a victim of power. She was the fuel that 3 men burned to warm their own ambitions. She was a queen who committed the ultimate sin. She survived. She survived the betrayal, the prison, the silence. She survived in the dark for 46 years, refusing to sign away her title, refusing to abdicate, refusing to give them the one thing they wanted most, her consent. Maybe that wasn't madness. Maybe that was the sanest thing anyone has ever done. Do you think they were a victim or a villain? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to descend further into the shadows of history, if you want to uncover more secrets buried in the graves of the powerful, click the video on your screen right now. The truth is waiting.